Hi, my name is Ogle, and today I'll be speaking about how political correctness has gone too far in our country. Let's begin by talking about free speech, because free speech is how we fight against political correctness. Free speech is one of the rights that we have as Americans that separates us from the rest of the world. The individuals that wrote the Bill of Rights knew how important free speech was after being colonists, so they protected it in the First Amendment. Even though free speech has been a law since 1791, it wasn't until the 1900s that the Supreme Court made an important decision to define what was considered free speech. Before that, Congress passed the Sedition Act of 1798 that made it a crime to speak against the government. During the Civil War, people who protested the war were arrested because it was believed the First Amendment didn't protect against being disloyal to our country. Finally, in 1919, the case Scheck versus United States helped define the right balance between free speech and public safety. According to David Bodenhammer, in his book, Our Rights, the belief that society is best served by a marketplace of ideas, open to all opinions, no matter how radical, ultimately prevailed after several other cases during Great Depression, World War II, and the Cold War. More recent decisions made by the Supreme Court have even provided protection for things like burning the American flag. Having truly unlimited free speech is important because, again, according to Bodenhammer, the right to speak freely without restraint is essential to democratic government because it helps us develop better laws and policies through challenge, rebuttal, and debate. When we all have the ability to speak in public forum, offensive opinions can be combated with opposing argument, a more exclusive approach, a more effective idea. We tolerate offensive speech and protect the right to speak even for people who would deny it to us because we believe that exposing their thoughts and opinions to open debate will result in discovery of truth. Basically, ultimate free speech is the most important thing we have. Compare what free speech is like in European countries. According to Stuart Braun, Europe has a history of limiting speech the government feels is offensive or destructive. For example, in 2012, a rock band in Russia was arrested for singing a song that was against their president. Could you imagine if that happened here? People who are not happy with our president make comments on social media all the time. This year, since it is an election year, everybody is able to give their opinions on candidates and don't have to worry about going to jail. Can you imagine if our teacher got arrested because he or she was telling us about different candidates and what even one of them stand for? Some countries in Europe have laws that ban hate speech and make it illegal to insult politicians and police officers. The hope is that by not allowing offensive speech, that order will be maintained in the countries. Of course, some people who live there do not believe this completely, but still think the government should limit free speech if it leads to violence. The way I see it is here in the United States, we have unlimited free speech where we can say anything, while in Europe, if they say the wrong thing, they can be penalized or even go to jail. The problem I see with this is who gets to decide what speech leads to violence or is offensive. What is offensive to one person may not be offensive to someone else. This is why unlimited free speech is so important. Limiting free speech, like in Europe, leads to political correctness. Webster's dictionary defines political correctness as agreeing with the idea that people should be careful not to use language or behave in a way that could offend a particular group of people. Again, this points to my earlier point, that who is going to decide what is offensive? Some examples of where political correctness is trying to take over schools has happened recently. One school in California sent 5 students home for wearing American flag t-shirt on Cinco de Mayo Day. They say it's offensive to Mexican Americans who wear an American flag shirt on a Mexican holiday, even though they are in American high school. In 2012, a New York Post reported that New York City Department of Education banned words from their tests like dinosaur, birthdays, wealth, poverty, Halloween, dancing, tourism, divorce, references to disease, slavery, creatures from outer space, and so many more because they said it could lead to unpleasant emotions in students. These words are not dangerous nor offensive in my opinion. Limiting our free speech by claiming you are not to offend anyone threatens our greatest rights we hold as Americans, our right of free speech. It is important we do not allow political correctness to win and lose our First Right Amendments. Political correctness is dangerous and it is up to us to stop it happening.